Talk about whispered speech. So I work with children with autism. I specialize with children with autism. I would say every school year I have at least one child on my caseload who has whispered speech. So today we're going to go over techniques that are highly effective in working with preschoolers who have whispered speech, whether the preschooler has autism or has a different condition. So we're going to get into whispered speech in a second. First, I want to share this healthy hack. Now, this healthy hack I'm going to share with you today is from my sister-in-law, Emily Murray. She's a modern natural baby. So I got to tell you, I am all out of healthy hacks. I gave you all of my healthy hacks, all of my good ones. But I have two sister-in-laws that are like Gwyneth Paltrow. They are in their 40s. They look like they're 20 years old, and they are the healthiest eaters you can imagine. They are 100% organic in everything they put in their bodies. And as a result, they look like they're 20. They are amazing, and they have great recipes. So they are hooking me up for this next week with their best ofs. This one is a good one. We are going to make homemade mayonnaise. This is so delicious. Let me tell you what to do. This is Emily's recipe. You take a mason jar that's just a little bit bigger than your immersion blender, the rim is, okay? So you can put it in all the way. You have your mason jar. What you're going to do with your mason jar is this. You're going to add one cold egg from the fridge. You're going to add 1 cup of olive oil. Now, Emily likes to use a little bit less olive oil. You're going to add 2 to 3 teaspoons of lemon juice in that jar. You're going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of Himalayan sea salt and a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, if you like black pepper. Then after that, you're going to add 1 tablespoon of Dijon mustard. So that's a whole tablespoon of Dijon mustard. Okay, so you have it all in the jar. Let it sit for a couple of seconds, just so the egg gets to the bottom of the oil. Then, this is where the magic happens. You take your immersion blender all the way in there. You put it on high and you count to 20. 20 seconds. Okay, then after that, oh, thank you, Emily. Only use extra light olive oil. Extra light olive oil only. Thank you, Emily. Emily's on. I told you, this is my Gwyneth Paltrow here. You should see her. She looks like she's 20 and she's in her mid-40s. So eat this. So anyhow, then you're going to get a little bit scraped onto the side. And then after that, do you know what you're going to have? You're going to have wonderful mayonnaise. That's it. You can put the cap on and keep it for 2 weeks in the fridge. The end. You can also add a clove of garlic if you like garlic inside of your mayonnaise. So that is the mayonnaise tip, the mason jar mayonnaise tip. Thank you, Emily. It is delicious. It is magic. It looks all white and fluffy like the Miracle Whip, but it's like healthy. The Miracle Whip, not healthy, like the worst thing you can put in your body. So let's go into our lesson 26. Thanks, Emily. I'm so glad you're here. Emily's like, make sure it's extra light olive oil. So you're going to add a cup, but Emily likes to add a little bit less than a cup of extra light olive oil to the egg. All right, thanks, Emily. So we're going to go ahead and get into our lesson 26. This technique really works. Aiden whispered when he spoke. Many thought he couldn't speak. However, if you listen closely enough, you would hear his whispered words. What was the underlying cause of Aiden's whispered speech? Because there's no obvious muscular weakness or physical difference, it could have been due to having difficulty with motor coordination. The children with autism are known to have differences in their cerebellum that are largely connected to coordination challenges. Inaudible speech may also be connected to auditory perception differences. Some children with autism may inaccurately perceive their own speaking volume due to these perception differences. So speech is like an orchestra. The articulators, the tongue, the cheeks, the velum must coordinate with the vocal folds and the airflow to produce the speech. When we whisper, our vocal folds do not move. Hence, when we have laryngitis, our vocal folds are unable to contract due to inflammation. Therefore, we whisper. Aiden did go on to project his voice and would become a fluent conversationalist in elementary school. There, testing indicated him to be on the gifted spectrum. This may not have happened if he never outcame. I'm sorry, if he had not, I'm sorry, I'm going to start from the beginning. This may not have been the outcome if his whispered voice had never been heard. How did Aiden find his voice so others could actually hear him when he spoke? This is the trick. I applied the strategies from the evidence-based Lee Silverman voice treatment approach. This has been used successfully with children with neurologically based motor speech disorders. I performed therapy across the room from Aiden, yelling the whole time. This was to the dismay of Mr. Joe, the occupational therapist I shared a room with. However, Aiden's voice did match my yelling volume. It did not match my yelling volume, but it did raise it up to an audible level. So what happens is the mirror neurons resulted in Aiden, maybe he was not speaking as yelling, but he wasn't whispering. He was talking at an audible level. That's what happened. So this can likely be attributed to activating mirror neurons in which we gravitate towards mirroring our communication of the partner's speech. Using the LSVT method was highly effective with Aiden, as it has been with many others that I've served with autism, to increase the volume. Now, I'm trained in LSVT. I don't think you need to get trained in it. It's just the principles of being loud. And because of the mirror neurons, the child is going to meet you halfway. And when the child meets you halfway, they're actually audible. So many of the children with autism I work with, I hear them talk all the time because it's just, I'm alone with them in a room. But in the classroom, the teacher never hears them talk. The teacher's like, I've never heard this child say a word. And that's because they're whispering. And in the classroom, you have a child crying. Over here, you have all of this noise and commotion. They never even hear them speak. So this is a very, very important area to focus your attention on, because if these children's speech is not responded to, they're going to stop talking. So let's get into the 5 high five tips. Number 1, model yelled speech, like I was talking about, continuously throughout the child's therapy sessions. So I was across the room like a cheerleader, yelling back like at him across the room. Number 2, create distance between you and the child. Stand on the other side of the room, making yelling a necessity. Number 3, now this is very important, because the body and the mouth are connected from entrainment, make big movements. So I felt kind of like I was in orchestra and you're teaching someone to talk and your arms are way outstretched, really loud. So think large, loud movements. And they also have, by the way, LSVT has a research-based method in which they do big movements for those with Parkinson's. So for instance, people with Parkinson's have this short shuffled walk. So in therapy, they have them take big, huge steps. And then once again, by doing that, it makes their walk, they meet it halfway. So in therapy, you're having them go above and beyond with these really, really large steps you're helping them with. So that in the real world, you get the step a half a step bigger instead of the shuffled steps. So like I said, so you're going to go, challenge creates change. If you want the child here, you need to be here in therapy. Okay. Number 4, use the highest rewarding activities in the initial stages, realizing that loud speech will be especially effortful for a child who whispers. And the last one, number 5, fade out your verbal model as soon as you can, but continue to make really large gestures with your body, always making sure the child's audible 80% of the time. So just like anything else we do, we want to set the child up for success. And we're going to, like pairs figure skating, we're not going to let the child fall. And what that means is we're going to jump in when it gets hard, and we're going to help them with more support. We're going to be yelling, we're going to be moving, giving 100% of our tools. But when they start and raise their voice, we're going to stop talking. And we're just going to keep moving, because the verbal model is the hardest model to fade. So what we want to do is we want to fade it as soon as possible. And we're going to continue with large movements like you're an orchestra conductor across the room to encourage them to have big, loud speech. So that is today. I can't wait. If you haven't tried it yet, I want you to try these techniques with children who whisper. It really works. This is only one child that I've used this with. I've used this with countless children, and it's been highly successful. However, no one's going to want to share a therapy room with you. That's the only downfall. You have to think of the pluses and minuses. So thank you so much for joining me today. Have fun with the mayonnaise. Roll up your sleeves. Go on and do what you do each and every week and make the world a better place, one child at a time. You're always going to be first. All right. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.